So, good morning. I am going to do a little demo just on creating a collage. This is for drawing 2. And let's start with the materials that you're going to need. This is for project, I believe it's 7.2, the color matching exercise. So we're going to go through this first part of it, which is just creating your collage. And so materials. Obviously, you're going to need some scissors. It's also helpful, but not absolutely necessary to have an X-Acto knife and a cutting mat if you can get one. If you don't have one of those, you can just use a piece of cardboard like this one. A burnishing tool is nice also. And so I've got this fancy bone folder tool. Or you can also use a tried and true wooden spoon, also good for printmaking. And glue. I don't have a glue stick, and I don't even have like Elmer's glue all. Oh, it might be somewhere in this house, but I just can't find it. So I'm gonna use this Liquitex matte medium gel. And this is really good. You'll see it's kind of like has a thick texture for sticking stuff that's a little bit heavier duty onto your collage, but you probably won't need it. If you happen to use a matte medium, you can also use Mod Podge, and you'll need a couple of brushes. Use some cheapy brushes you don't care about losing, or maybe a sponge brush, because once you get it pretty stuck, unless you try cleaning it right away, sometimes even that doesn't work, the brush is pretty much, one and done. Okay, so there's that. You're going to need magazines. I've got fancy art magazines here, but you can use any magazines. So get some magazines from around the house and a support. So if you don't have tag board, poster board, illustration board, you can go for something cheapy like cardboard. Having a hard time finding cardboard in a pinch, you can use the back of food boxes. This one has a bunch of folds on it, but it is 9 by 12. Your collage isn't going to be any bigger than 9 by 12. But it'll still work. And if you can score a cereal box, which will give you probably more of a surface without the folds, you can do that. You do have some art materials at home, or here's another alternative. I'm always saving these from the backs of like old pieces of pads of paper. I use them for printmaking, collage, all sorts of stuff. So you could use that. Watercolor paper also works pretty good for collage because it's meant to get, a little bit wet. So I cut this piece of watercolor paper in 9 by 12. And then there's this other stuff called Bristol board, which a lot of people use for screen printing too sometimes. And this is also a little bit stiffer and give you more support. So those are our materials. Let's talk about cutting techniques. So you could do the basic thing is going to be tearing out your images and then, cutting around those images. Try to leave, while you're looking through your images, try to leave them without white. Remember, your theme is dreams and nightmares. So you want to take 30 minutes, and I actually did this. I put on a timer. I don't want to spend more than 30 minutes doing this. I mean, we all have like all these things to do. And so I just went 30 minutes, cut out my images. You can also leave edges of things torn if you like that. Some people do sort of like that torn look, and you can use that as like a technique in your collage. You tear it this way, you'll get this white edge. tear it this way, it'll do something different. You can also use a ruler to help you tear straighter lines, like that. So that's one way to do it. Once you've gone through your different materials, so here are some of my collage elements that I've picked out, and I'm just going to talk about them a little bit. One is, for example, in this, I really want to silhouette this a little bit better so that it matches like what I'm doing. So I've still got some of this edge, and what I'm going to do is cut it out a little more so that it matches or fits my background perfectly. And I don't have this little bit of the edge spoiling that illusion. So I really encourage you to do that. Here's where an X-Acto knife is really handy. You can cut really well around it with, you know, most parts of this image, but something like this is really hard to get with scissors. So I'll use my X-Acto knife. And if you don't have a really sharp blade, you might have to go over that same cut. And then here are some of the other elements I'm using, and I just want to, some of them are more like square-like images because I know these are going to be in the background of my image. So that's why they look like this. They're more background images, so they're not as silhouetted. But the things that I have that are coming in to, you know, the middle and foreground of my composition are silhouetted so that they fit better and look like a cohesive image, which is one of the things that you want to shoot for. Like, you don't want it to look like a bunch of squares on a piece of paper. What you want it to look like is all of those little pieces have unity and are okay. So this is the second part, project 7.3, where you're going to create a grid from your collage. And so really quickly, I'm going to talk about the materials you're going to need. You are going to need your collage, non-stick tape. Instructions call for plastic wrap, but if you have it, I would say acetate, which is what I will be using in this video. Looks like this. But if you don't have acetate, I still think a better alternative to the plastic wrap, because it kind of gets all wrinkly and messed up, is you can cut up a page protector, okay? Or even using a piece of, cutting up a Ziploc bag, maybe the little thicker kind rather than the cheaper kind if you have it, will lie flat and not wrinkle up like plastic wrap, okay? So that would be my suggestion for, you know, plastic wrap material. You're gonna need paper. We are doing 9 by 12 and not 18 by 24. A fine point marker, a Sharpie is good. A H pencil, and then of course your color pencils, but we're not going to use that part yet. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take your acetate and you're going to put it over your collage, or if it's just a piece of, you know, plastic wrap or a piece of plastic, put it on the part that you think you're going to crop out, okay? I would tape it down. So that's what your removable tape is for. And then what you're going to do is use a viewfinder. You could just use your hands, you know, if you have to, kind of like get an idea. I used 2 sheets of paper like this that are cut into L shapes, and this will like help you, you know, do little crop, you know, it's like a manual crop tool, okay? Or, you know, you know, it's even possible to use your phone if you're good with that, but keep in mind you're gonna have to make a grid. Okay, so I found my composition, and then what I would do is mark it off and create a grid. Okay, so what I will say as a suggestion for this crop version is that you keep it, you know, even numbers. I mean, I would suggest 4 inches by 4.5 inches, because if you make your measurements odd measurements, then you're going to have a hard time making a grid that's, you know, easy to measure out, you know, and just for the sake of time, you want to do something fast and easy. Okay, so I've already done this and skipped this part, or I've done this part previously. So here's the grid that I cropped out. The first thing I did was I had it just like this. I used my ruler and my Sharpie to trace around the window first, okay, or the picture plane. And then I created a 16-point grid. If you look at the instructions on your paper, there is also, you know, specific instructions for 18-point grid, but I'm just gonna tell you, I will post that on Blackboard, but I'll just show you how to do it now. And it's basically, you know, you cut your window in half, vertically, in half horizontally, and then you're gonna cut it in quarterly, half here, 1 here, 4, and then horizontally again, 5 and 6. So then you'll have a 16-point grid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay? Then what you'll do is you will replicate that grid on a sheet of paper. Okay? Do it lightly with your H pencil. Okay? And then using a ruler. And then once you've done that part, you're ready to start creating your cartoon or drawing. Now, I haven't gotten that so far. I haven't done my whole cartoon yet. And remember, we're going to be color matching this using Prismacolor colored pencils to do that part. And I will post an additional video on what mine looks like after. But basically you'll go, I mean, most of you know how to use a grid. My only suggestion is just remember to go from top all the way over, and go to the second row all the way over, third row all the way over. What happens sometimes is, you know, if you go over here, over here, over here, skip around, or the temptation is also to go, like if you have a line going down this way and then keep going down, it'll probably be off. But if you go in order from left, you know, from top, left to right, like you're reading a book, you won't have so many issues and problems. So that's how you create your grid, and you can get started on the colored pencil portion of your 7.3 color matching colored pencil project.